Murphy, and if you couldn't tell, I'm quite a bit hoarse right now. So it is not the best decision for me to sit down here and talk for an hour about sports. That being said, though, I am going to let my voice have a little bit of a break, but obviously the show must go on, right? Well, today I have a real treat for you. Back in October, while he was up here recruiting, Trevor Powers and I sat down to record a new series for the show where we break down different MLB players. It's a series I'd like to continue, so I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. But before we get into it, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, pretty much anywhere podcasts are available. And for this edition in particular, here on the Murphy's Law YouTube channel. Also, give a rating and leave a review. Your feedback is always very helpful and much appreciated. And be sure to follow me on Twitter at B_Murphy_MU. DMs are always open, always talking sports over there. I'd love to hear your feedback for the new breakdown series that we're going to do here on the podcast. So, without any further ado, here is myself and Trevor Powers breaking down Juan Soto. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Murphy's Law. Now I'm joined by my good friend Trevor Powers, also the assistant coach at Goldie Beacom, graduate assistant, and the co-host of the Backside Ground Balls Baseball podcast. So, Trevor, it's great to have you back on the show.
Yeah, it's nice to be in person. First time in a while.
Yeah, we're here in studio. Trevor was able to come up for the day. Had some recruiting to do, so figured we take a little time and record a breakdown, something we were talking about in the first podcast that we did, where we were going to talk about breaking down somebody like Trevor Bauer. But today we're actually going to start with Juan Soto. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share the screen, and we are going to talk a little bit about the 22-year-old stud who is Juan Soto. Now, we have a couple of clips here of some home runs that he hit and some at-bats pitch by pitch. But we'll start with this home run from, I believe this was last year against the Yankees. So this is a 1-0 count. I believe this is Chasen Shreve he's facing on the mound. This one was a bomb, first off. So I'll play it through once, and then we'll go back and talk about it. So this is a 1-0 fastball that he gets, and just watch this. Absolutely crushed. Middle away, out into right center. That's about as far as you can hit a ball at Yankee Stadium. Mm-hmm. So let's rewind this back to the beginning. Now, before you even see the pitch, you watch Juan Soto a lot because you're a Nats fan. Mm-hmm. You see pretty much every at-bat that he's had in the big league. So tell me what you see from him that translates that you can tell that he's geared up to hit a home run here.
Well, I mean, first off, confidence. I would say this home run was pretty much his coming out party. It was the second home run. First one was a fluke, Yankee Stadium homer. But, when he hit this one, everybody started talking about the kid. And they were talking about 19 years old, doing what he's doing. And in his setup, you can already tell he's got a little bit of funkiness there. He's got the foot kind of up and bowed, which I've never understood. And to be honest, I've never seen it from any hitter. I don't know about you.
The only one I could really think of, and this it was super, super early in his career, like probably even from his college days, was a little bit of Bryce. And it wasn't so much before in his stance. It was more so he would put it in his load, yeah. So he would bring that foot up as he's gearing up for the pitch. He doesn't so much do it anymore, but I guess it's something that back in those days where he wasn't quite as strong as he is now, he used that to generate some power.
Yeah, I mean, that was with metal bats, he was able to, give a little to get more with the bat. But so with Juan Soto, I think it might be a mental cue thing, like where he's starting, because you can see he's already bringing that front pocket to the pitcher, which that means he's kind of starting his load almost already. So it could just be a preset thing that helps him mentally. But if you get started in his swing,
So I'll go a little slow with this.
So you see how all he has to do is pick up his leg and his front side. So he's already sitting back into that back leg, which is what we call a hinge. So that's where you get your load and you get glute dominated. So I think that part is his starting way for him mentally to think, I need to get into that position. So you see he kind of gets in a good compressed hinge which is what's going to generate his power. So in that position, he's in a pretty good hitter's position. He doesn't have that much hand movement, which is really interesting because you see a lot more guys with a lot of hand movement going on. You see the Donaldsons, the Glabers, those guys. He's very simple with his hands, but he has so much power coming from that lower half, which is massive. You can tell he's just a strong guy. And, you run through this real quick and you just see it all come out. Like, so it's so quick. It goes from that position of his load.
So you have the load right here.
Yep. And then just look at how late he starts his swing. That's how quick he is. But you see the belt buckle, that's how you know he's clearing his hips. When that belt buckle gets cleared, that means he's getting his hips to the ball, which is where he generates all of his bat speed from.
And then you just see him take a pitch middle away and just absolutely crush it. I mean, that ball was hit, I think, 450 feet.
Yeah, it was a long one.
You don't see homers going to left center in Yankee Stadium that go that far. I mean, not since Josh Hamilton in the old stadium in the Home Run Derby, but that's also the Home Run Derby.
Yep.
So you have this at bat. Let's move into another one, which we thought was interesting, as they show a replay here. This one is from the World Series, and this is in Game 1 against Garrett Cole. And as we were pulling through clips, this is one that I liked in particular simply because of the way that he's able to go to the opposite field, generate so much power. And at Minute Maid Park, you have the train in left center field, and he hits it off the train that probably was 440 feet away, if not more. So we'll play this one through. Now, this is off Garrett Cole. Now, granted, this is the first pitch of the at-bat, so he got the slider up and in and takes it. So as we move through here, this one's going to be fastball away at about 96, up and away, and he just drives it to left center field right off the train, right off the 2017 World Series champions banner. And you just see Garrett Cole's reaction. It's just like, well, I threw my pitch, and he hit a bomb. So you see, we'll go all the way back to the beginning of the at-bat. So that first pitch slider. Now, when you're facing Garrett Cole, I don't care if it's Game 1 of the World Series or just some random game in April. You're going up to the plate. You're not exactly expecting a slider up and in first pitch.
No, definitely. I'm not. I mean, Garrett Cole's got the best fastball in Major League Baseball, and it's where it's located, where he gets his most swings and misses, is the one he hits out eventually to the arm slide up in the zone. But I guess when you're Juan Soto and you're generational talent, you got to expect everything. You got to be ready for everything. And obviously somebody comes out and a guy, even with the respect that Cole has, throws you a first pitch slider. So, but what I'm thinking, if I had an earpiece for Juan Soto, and not that he needs my earpiece, you can pause this right here just so we don't run it through. So we've already talked about how elite Garrett Cole's fastball is, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody in the ballpark knows how elite Garrett Cole's fastball is. He tries the first pitch slider, right? So you're like, all right, I'm going to try to get 0-1 with my second pitch. Well, you throw that for a ball as a hitter. Me personally, if I had an earpiece for Juan Soto, I'm selling out for the heater. And I'm selling out for where he's going to throw it the most because he's got to get – you can't get too well. Everybody says first pitch strikes, right? Mm-hmm. It's actually a fluke. You got to get your first two pitches in the strike zone. One of your first two pitches in the strike. So if you get 1-0, you got to win the 1-0 and get 1-1. Yeah. So as Garrett Cole, are you really going to double up on slider? Remember, this is game 1. Soto, he kind of pushed 3 fastballs right by him in that first at bat. Soto looked overmatched. He looked like he was trying to do too much. So Garrett Cole's, saying to himself, I'm about to make $300 million in this offseason. I'm going to throw my best pitch here, and I'm going to see if the 21-year-old now, well, in 3 days, can actually hit it and do something with it. So if we roll it through to the pitch, so one thing I noticed right away is in the setup, he's a lot more straight up. We noticed it in the first, but you can see he's a lot more straight up in the first one. And the load's actually simplified. So you don't have the front back pocket as close to the pitcher. That's the first notice. And the leg kick is actually shortened. So he's actually probably generating less power. But again, when you're facing a guy like Garrett Cole, and a lot of young guys have this problem where they try to hit every ball out of the stadium, it's like, hey, man, you're strong first off. Just get barrel to ball. You have elite bat to ball skills. Just get barrel to ball, and it's going to go 430 feet if you get to it. So you notice right away that he's in a much better position for clean contact, I would say. There's less moving parts. It's a much more simplified load. So it's the same thing. He's just unbelievably quick. And you're going to watch his hips still clear at an elite rate. You know what I'm saying? He's still getting those hips out. He's still an efficient mover, so he necessarily doesn't even need the full load. But you see where he's at so if we had something to draw where side bend is, so look at where at his
I think we do.
So draw right down here. And then so now you want to go down to his middle and then down.
All right, eraser. Like I said, this is the first time for this, so we're experimenting a bit. So I'll give you the mouse for this.
Okay.
I'll slide the mic over and give you the mouse for that.
What we've been hearing about in baseball today.
Still on eraser. Okay. Let's
I'll start talking. So what we've been hearing about in baseball today is how guys with uppercut swings cannot get to the high fastball, right? And that's what made guys like Garrett Cole and Justin Verlander basically turn their career around. So what makes these younger guys elite is the fact that when you have a guy who has a legit uppercut swing, right, they can't get to that high fastball. But if you have proper side bend, which is basically the angle of your torso in comparison to the ground. So you see how he's kind of hanging over. Well, if the ball's lower in the zone, you get more side bend. Not that extreme, but you would get more side bend. So his barrel actually comes right off his shoulders and stays flat, but his approach angle on the ball, which is where the bat is meeting the ball coming up, is going to be increased because of the side bend. So technically he does have an uppercut swing, but that's why he's able to stay on this ball up in the top of the zone that a lot of hitters can't do, because he stays on that almost flat shoulder plane swing, but so he's able to stay technically on top, or I like to say get to that high fastball and stay on it.
And not only is it high, this pitch is right here.
Yeah.
It's up and away at 96.
Mm-hmm.
So he's taking that ball and just going deep with it.
Mm-hmm.
But running the rest of this through, you see 96 up and away. He just hits an absolute tank.
Yeah, and I mean, the carry that he has on it just shows the different strength that he has in comparison to most guys. It's like most guys, if they do stay on that, it's a double and get.
Yeah.
Most guys stay on that, maybe it's a second row homer. I mean, to go up on the tracks, that just shows how elite of a mover he is, and just really bat to ball skills that he has. You see, he doesn't have a lot of head movement and things like that you see guys like Javier Baez, Bryce Harper go on streaks. A lot of guys in the big leagues can hit the ball the other way like that, but do it consistently against an elite fastball, that's next level.
Exactly. So moving away from this one, this next one's also from the World Series. And this one is the one in game, what was this? Was this game 2 off Verlander?
Game 6.
Okay, game 6.
So
this one's off Justin Verlander, and this one was probably about as far as I've ever seen a ball hit in that ballpark.
So you have to know, before the series, before game 1, Kevin Long told somebody Juan Soto is going to take Garrett Cole. And why is that? Because Juan Soto is such a great high fastball hitter, which we already dove into why he's a high fastball. Well, you know who else throws high fastballs? Justin Verlander. So what's made him successful? So it's a favorable matchup for Soto. And this is what's going to take Soto's game to this next level. You look at the count, you look at the situation. Again, Justin Verlander's not going to put the go-ahead run on. He's going to get beat with his best pitch. 3-1 count. What are you doing? And I mean, I don't know about you. Same thing with Garrett Cole. If anybody, we'll run it through, but this is a well-located pitch.
Yes, it is. I mean, look at this spot. It's up and
96
in,
at
and
96.
you can make the argument that pitch wasn't even a strike. It might not have even been a strike.
If Juan Soto takes that pitch and the umpire calls it a ball, you go, oh, it's borderline. Like Juan Soto has the respect in the eye to get that call.
Just running it back, the load's pretty much the same as the last one.
Yes.
Because this is the type of account that you're probably going to be expecting fastball. And it's up and in, just brings the hands right inside, gets the barrel of the ball, and it just flies.
Similar side bend. His hips. I mean, if we ran an overlay between the hips and the same, they're actually the same. The way his lower half works is actually almost identical to the Garrett Cole home run. So his hips end up in the same spot. The only difference is, one, timing. It's easier to be on time for a 3-1 fastball. You're in a much better hitter's count. But also you can see where he kind of just got it. He stayed more compact, but because he's able to recognize pitch so early, which is just, that's something you can't teach. The pitch recognition is something you can't teach. But being able to take advantage of a 3-1 count, and we're going to talk about this with another at-bat, but that's the difference for Juan Soto, is that, to put it into perspective, he has not taken advantage of hitters' counts as well as he can, and as well as I'm sure he will be when he's 26, 27, when he's more mature, when he kind of tones down a lot of his moving parts, which you already see year in and year out. I think he did it a lot better this year, which is why he hit 350. And I really think there's no reason to believe that he wouldn't hit 350 over the full season. I mean, maybe more closer to 330, but I mean, because he was so good, and because what makes him so special is what we're going to talk about in his next at-bat is the two-strike approach and his ability to still continue to do damage with two strikes and why it works.
Yeah. And what stinks for him is because of the shortened season and the fact that he had was it actually a false positive, his COVID
I
test?
believe so.
Either false positive or a quick asymptomatic case of coronavirus. Either way, he missed the first 2 weeks of the season, so he wasn't able to get on the field. And based on the way he played, he would have probably won the MVP easily. Now, it's not like Fernando Tatis didn't have a great first half, but he fell off in the month of September. And also keep in mind, we're recording this in October before the awards have been announced. So I'm not 100% sure when this will air, but keep that in mind. If it airs post-awards, there you go. So we don't know that he has or has not won the MVP yet, which he still could.
Yeah.
But this at-bat, that pitch, just the fact that he hit that ball out.
Yeah, and how far it went, too. I mean, he got true backspin on it. So no topspin, which you see a lot of guys with that pitch will topspin a ball. I mean, just everything that goes with that is just unbelievable. And, that at-bat, that home run's important because of something that, again, we're going to talk about with another at-bat, the differences between the two. But, if you talk about Juan Soto and you don't show that video, that's to do that against Justin Verlander, a Hall of Famer, a guy who won the Cy Young that year, with probably, if you asked him, and he honestly told you exactly what he wanted to throw in that situation, and that it doesn't get better than that. To do that at 21 years old is just unbelievable.
I mean, this kid, there's a reason why, if you ask me, there's an argument for the second best player in baseball, because obviously Mike Trout's so far and away better than everybody else. But if you look for that number 2 player in baseball, he's in that conversation. I don't know if he's that number 2 guy yet, which he very well could be.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask 5 different people, you probably get 5 different answers between him, Acuna, Yelich, Bellinger, and Mookie Betts.
Yep.
You probably will get 5 different answers. If you asked me right now, I would probably lean Cody Bellinger, but that's just me. I mean, if you ask you could say Juan Soto. If I asked,
Betts is what I would probably say. But yeah, he's top 6.
Exactly.
He's got to be in there. And the only flaw he really has is his defense. I mean, if he played,
And even that's gotten better.
and it's gotten better, and I think that's gonna be the only thing that might handcuff him from a couple MVPs is he's not a true center fielder. He's not a true defensive guy. Like it affects his WAR numbers, which makes a difference in an MVP vote. But I think hitter wise, he's the second best hitter. But
Pure hitter.
I
completely agree with that.
He's just. I mean, look at what he did this year. I mean, even missing time, he had 13 homers with 350 average. I mean, he plays a full season, and that was with I think he only had 3 in the month of September.
Yeah.
I mean, so like you're talking about a guy who imagine playing a full season might get up to he's probably on pace for 35 at 330.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good year.
And he was still driving in runs, scoring runs in a lineup that
wasn't getting pitched
was not the same as it was last year because last year he had the protection from Anthony Rendon
in front of him.
Yeah. So if guys don't want to pitch to Rendon, they're going to pitch to Soto. And if they don't want to pitch to Soto, I guess they're going to pitch to Rendon. But this year he didn't have that. Like you have Trey Turner hitting at the top of the order, but Soto doesn't really have any protection. And I think part of that is because you lose Anthony Rendon, who, in my opinion, and I'm sure we've talked about this, I'm sure you agree, losing Rendon probably hurt the Nationals more so than losing Bryce Harper did.
Yes.
Because in Harper's case, you had an immediate replacement in Juan Soto, who was just as good, if not better. Exactly.
Comes up is like the real guy who takes his spot.
Exactly. And then you have Rendon, and you'd think Carter Keyboom can step up and be that guy. Now, can he still be that guy? I think he can be. I think he showed signs that he is that player, but he's still young. This was only his second year in the big leagues. He hadn't even played a full season yet. So you got to give him time.
Yeah.
So you can't expect that from day one he's going to go out and just absolutely rake.
And not everybody is Juan Soto.
Exactly. Not everybody's Juan Soto. Not everybody's Mike Trout. It takes time.
Tatis, all these guys. I mean, we're spoiled as baseball fans.
I mean, look at Vlad Jr. Vlad Jr. was expected to come out
to his own.
Yeah, he was expected to come up and immediately be just as good as his father was. And he struggled He struggled his first year. This year he took a step forward, but he's still not at that level. But he's only 20 years old.
Yeah.
Gotta give him time.
Yeah. And it should be we're so spoiled as baseball fans that it's just
this was the one he dropped the bat.
Yeah. It's expected for guys to go do that thing. Actually, go to that side angle. Let's see. We can see a better of how he looks. Let's see if they get it.
Yeah,
it's
here
like
we go.
how he gets into the hips. It's like you see that. Yeah, there it is. And you see those hips there's just explosive. And he's actually more controlled. You'll see a lot of guys get that back leg off the ground. You see Mike Trout do it. You see Harper do it. I mean, he has so much control of his power that that's why he has elite bat to ball skills. So there's less moving parts. Not that back leg moving is going to affect how much you make contact because contact would have already been made and things like that go into it. Just means you're moving well. But there's so much you can do when you're that efficient moving.
Yeah. Now this was an at bat from this year against the Mets. Justin Wilson's pitching. And this is the entire at bat, so we'll take you through the pitch sequence. Now, this first pitch from Justin Wilson's a fastball that he missed up. And Soto does his little shimmy, which honestly I think is hilarious. I think it was during the playoffs last year that he really first broke that out.
No, he's had it since he made his debut. Yeah.
I guess they really never talked about it until the playoffs last year.
Yeah, the Michaelis situation where Michaelis grabbed his balls back at Soto or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Soto's always done it. And one thing I always say is he's confident when he's doing it. And there was only one streak where I guess you say Soto struggled and he wasn't as confident in his shimmy. Once he got back to that, you knew he was going to get raking. So this is the first pitch, and this will all make sense when we get to the end of it. But the difference of Juan Soto and how he gets to reach his ceiling, which Hall of Fame ceiling. Let's just put it flat. We were talking about one of the best players of all time. So you're in a 1-0 count. You're lefty on lefty. Again, you have to know the situation. Justin Wilson, I'm pretty sure, is a majority fastball guy. Yep. So they're up 2. Well, what does that tell you? You're not the tying run. He's going to challenge you with a fastball again.
Mm-hmm.
And what does Soto do? If you go back and look at it, he takes an absolute hack, like he did against Justin Verlander. And boom.
So, and you can tell this is middle fastball, maybe a little
and
up.
He's trying to hit it out.
Mm-hmm.
He just gets beat by a guy who has a solid fastball, like not an elite fastball, not a Garrett Cole, but you see how much effort that came from. And again, what people don't understand is not swinging and missing isn't always bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially in that count, like you swing and miss against Justin Wilson, like you'd rather do that than roll me over a ground ball, especially in a fastball count like that. So that's a big time. That's a big time swing pitch. To see Juan Soto with that intent, just the intent to do damage in that count and just shake his head and go, yep, I'm good. The difference is when he starts to really push the MVP year in and year out, he's going to start making contact with those pitches.
Yeah.
He doesn't always make contact with those pitches. Again, last year, his rookie year, he really didn't take advantage of hitters' counts, which when you talk about young guys specifically, when they come up and light the world on fire, well, what do? They hit fastballs. They hit hittable pitches. They hit in hitters' count. Well, Juan Soto was so backwards, and this is why every time I watched him play, and a lot of people watch him play, they say, this kid hasn't reached his ceiling. Well, why? Because he's doing so much damage with 2 strikes. Well, could you imagine if he hits that pitch?
Yeah.
If he takes advantage of the middle cut fastball, lefty on lefty, and hits it for a home run like a guy like Juan Soto should. In that count, and he starts doing that consistently. He starts hitting 400, 450, 500, and 2-0 fastball, and starts doing the damage like that with extra bases and stuff like that. I don't know the numbers exactly, but when you have a guy who does as much damage with 2 strikes as him, and he can keep that 2-strike approach and then go start doing damage with 2-0, that's when you're talking about a guy that's just going to light the world on fire. And as pitchers, you don't know what to do. You know, how do you pitch to a guy like that? It's hard. So we'll continue to roll this through.
This is the 1-1 pitch, and it's fastball. He just misses down and away.
So again, he was trying to get another fastball by him. Well, try to finesse it there.
So he looks like he kind of just yanked that one a little bit, and Soto kind of knew it. Like you're up there, you see that pitch, it's like all right, he just yanked it. So the way Justin Wilson pitches, he's basically fastball, and he really mostly throws fastballs. Like he'll throw a slider once in a while, not a whole lot. That's just what I've learned from watching the last 2 years as a Met. But this next pitch is a foul ball, and it's virtually the same spot, except he took a little bit off of it. That one was I think that one might have been either the slider or he took something off of a cutter.
So this is an important pitch in this at-bat because it's a well-located pitch, and you kind of get Juan Soto, I guess, what you would call Juan Soto off balance. You know, that's not a pretty swing. So again, if you're in his ear, again, if I had an earpiece, if I was hitting, and again, Juan Soto knows a lot more. He's a lot better hitter than I could ever dream to be. You take an uncomfortable swing, you know, you kind of think he's going to go back to it, right?
Exactly.
Like you take a swing like that, you got beat by 91 with a little bit of cut action, whatever it was, slider. You're kind of telling yourself, like, all right, like, you know, maybe time to sell out on a slider, maybe time to, you know, see if it's there. So obviously I know what comes next. So
yeah, and we're getting to that.
Yeah. So
what we did for this one is we put it side by side with the Verlander home run from the World Series, because it's 2 very different things, and I'll give you the marker to be able to pretty much draw whatever here. But first thing immediately, and when we were looking over these before, you see his stance here, nice and high, nice and stood up, gearing up to hit a fastball on a 3-1 count.
Yep.
And here you have 2-strike approach. It's a completely different stance.
It is. Yep.
And just to play him through.
Yeah, we'll play it through.
And then we'll go back.
Go back, yeah.
Now, obviously, you know what happens in the Verlander one, but this one, it's a very different pitch too. It's middle away.
Same pitch, different spot.
Yeah, both fastballs. both. Now, granted, the Verlander one
Better
was
located.
96, better located. Justin Wilson throws a 91-mile-an-hour cutter, and he gets taken to left center into the empty seats.
Yeah.
But going back to the setup, it's
So
completely different.
Yeah, completely different. And like I said, you see he's more in his legs. And Juan Soto is obviously a very leg dominant hitter. He doesn't, like we already talked about, he doesn't have a lot of hand movements. He doesn't try to use his upper body. He tries to get all of his power from his legs. So by getting deep in his legs, he's able to let the ball get deeper and he's able to see it longer. And that's his intent with that. So you obviously have him geared up. And the reason why we picked these two is, like I said, if Juan Soto starts to take advantage of the 3-1 count consistently, which he did against Verlander, while continuing to do his two-strike approach, because there's no reason for him to stop. I don't know, when you have success like he does, why would you stop? From what I've looked at, occasionally I'll check, guys, he's the second best two-strike hitter in the league behind Anthony Rendon on a career, with like a 699 OPS with 2 strikes, which think about, with 2 strikes, that's pretty insane, because you pretty much have like 3 results. You either get a hit, you either get walked, or you either get out. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so still, I mean, it's crazy to think about. So you obviously have the setup. So if you move just a little bit, so we get into the load, the different parts of the load.
So they're slightly off on the pitches, but the swings are timed up exactly the same.
They kind of go to the same height almost. Wants it with 2 strikes, he comes a little bit off the ground, but it's more of a toe tap. And on the left, it's more of a leg kick. So if you see the difference there, that's just massive, because it just keeps his so still in his head. But look at the difference between, so his body, like I said, is still set up. Like the hips are still moving the same way, everything. But look at where he's kind of letting it get so deep and starting his swing almost so late, which he starts to swing late there, but he's able to get inside of it and adjust early. But that he knows that guys are, nobody wants to come into Juan Soto with 2 strikes. Like, why would you? You don't have to. You have the advantage. So he knows that guys are going to pitch him like that. So he lets that ball get so deep, and he's so deep in his legs that it's just a simple move. He's already in his load. He's already ready to go, and it's just bat to ball. And you see the difference is, like, he gets just as much power from his 2-strike approach. Now, there's things that I've always said. It's like, why don't you just always do 2-strike approach? It's like, well, yeah, I mean, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
And this is where it's a big difference for me. So if you take Verlander's pitch and put it with the 2-strike pitch and the 2-strike stance, 2-strike approach, I don't think Juan Soto gets to it.
Yeah.
So that's the difference.
Especially if he's waiting this long.
Yes.
Just to get to the ball.
Yeah.
Because with this swing, the extra 5 miles an hour and location, because this pitch is right about here.
Yeah.
So this is middle away at 91 with cut.
Yep.
Now, Verlander's is a 4-seamer fastball that runs that is right here.
Yeah.
Which at 96, to be able to get your hands inside and hit that ball as far as he did,
you have to
just
be
elite.
selling out for that pitch. You can't think that he might go something else and get to that pitch. You just can't do it. And Juan Soto's 2-strike approach is why he hits lefties well, is because lefties are their sliders naturally going to go away. So it's why he hits right-handed changeups so well too, is because they're run away, and he baits guys into throwing them in 2-strike counts. So the reason why I point that out, that I don't think he would have got to that, is because, if I was facing Juan Soto, I know it's simple. Pitch him backwards. Like, yeah, like the same thing that people have been doing for years. I'm not a freaking rocket scientist. But when you see Juan Soto in fastball counts and he's geared up for pull side homer, you flick a changeup or you go lefty slider away from him, well, we already know he's going to take his swing and miss, right? He showed us in the 1-0 pitch against Justin. He's going to swing through it. So he doesn't care. So if Justin Verlander goes change up out there and gets the swing and miss, well, guess what he has now? So now Juan Soto is thinking about change up out, slider away, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he goes into his 2-strike approach. Now he's baiting you. Oh, I just got to swing and miss in 3-1. He's going to throw me a changeup. I'm going to stay on it like I do here against Justin Wilson. Now, it wasn't a good pitch, but we've seen him hit good pitches out. He has good numbers off of Hector Neris, who has the split finger, who basically plays right into Juan Soto's 2-strike approach. And, you see guys throw changeups to him all the time. He just stays on him so well. So now if you get him 3-2, he's spread out, and you give him Justin Verlander's four-seamer,
if you throw this pitch, he's not touching it.
No way he's getting to it.
The only thing, if you're Soto in that spot, the only thing you can do if you hit that ball is to foul it off.
Foul it off. Straight
foul it off and try to get another pitch.
Yep. You're either going to break your bat and chop, get a little flare over the third base dugout, or you're fouling it straight back. Or you're swinging and missing, most likely, which is with Verlander's elite fastball. So what I always wondered is, again, like I'm saying, hey, Trevor, we've been pitching guys backwards for years. Barry Bonds still raked. Why didn't anybody pitch him backwards? You're not a big league pitching coach. Don't you think they would know that about Juan Soto? Yes, I completely get it. Like, I'm not saying that Juan Soto's – but when you're facing Juan Soto and he goes 2 for 4 with 2 singles, I would walk away pretty happy if I'm if I'm not Jacob deGrom, Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer type of guy who should be getting Juan Soto out 4 times a day. Like, if you're like if you're 3 or 4 like Steven Matz or somebody, Gesellman this year on the Mets per se, goes and gets Juan Soto out and holds him to 2 singles and a 2 for 4 day, no bombs.
I'm cool with that.
You're happy. He didn't beat you. You didn't let Juan Soto beat you. So my point is if you can limit his success, you're going to see there is flaws in his swing. And it's very few and far between. But with that, his 2-strike approach, if you can locate – now, if you miss over the plate, he's going to go the other way, homer, because he lets it get deep. We've seen him hit 2-strike fastballs for homers. Guys have tried to do – yeah. But you have to get it in. But, again, you have to try. Nothing's worked yet. Nobody's getting him out yet. 2 or 3 years. And again, he is that good. But I really think that if you go in hitters counts, go real soft, again, it has to be well located, right? And then you go fastball in, I really think he would have less success, I guess, is what I would say. So you're looking at like 310 with 35 homers instead of 350 with 35 homers.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned flaws in his swing, and if you look at a guy, I mean, everybody's got flaws in their swing. We both did play in baseball, but then again, we were Division III, Division II baseball players, so that's no surprise. But everybody has flaws in their swing, even Mike Trout.
Yeah.
Even Mike Trout has flaws in his swing.
Fastball.
Exactly.
His career saved his life.
And he's starting to hit him now, but he still gets beat up in it.
He's kind of learned to take it, which is another thing that comes with maturity. Is so say Juan Soto does do that. Well, Manny Ramirez used to talk about baiting guys and sitting pitches. You watch him take 3 fastballs right down. Well, if Juan Soto gets to the point where guys start to really expose that flaw, and again, Mike Trout was winning MVPs while people knew about his flaw because you couldn't make a mistake to him. It's like, well, you want to throw a changeup 2-0, I'm going to take it. I'm going to swing and miss or take it. You're going to throw a fastball high and I'm going to swing and miss or take it because I'm going to get mine when you make a mistake, and I'm going to want you to throw that 2-strike fastball in because then I'm going to change it up on you, because then I'm going to go once you start seeing guys, because Juan Soto makes adjustments with the best of them. Once you see guys consistently pounding him in and having to locate it, which again, I don't think MLB pitchers have that good of a command to throw Justin Verlander's pitch every time. But once you see success, then he's just going to ditch the 2-strike approach and go, all right, the next time you come in, I'm going to do what I did to Justin Verlander, 2 strikes. And then he could go, there's all types of games within the game. And Juan Soto is a very smart hitter. So he's able to make those pitch by pitch adjustments. And, but that's what Mike Trout learned to do is instead of being like, oh, I need to learn how to hit the high fastball, I'm going to take the high fastball and I'll strike out a couple of times, I'm sure. But again, I'm already getting paid $500 million. So why do
Yeah.
I need to hit that 5 fastball? And secondly, it's like I'm going to have success because when that guy doesn't get that high fastball here, it comes down here. It's going 450 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, and that's about learning yourself and maturing. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's 22 years old. He probably doesn't even know half of his capabilities or what's
Exactly.
going to work for him.
Yeah, and you can even say the same thing about a guy like Ronald Acuna,
Mhm.
who completely different hitter. I mean, we can have a whole separate episode about that.
That guy just doesn't
But-
miss fastballs.
Oh no,
Doesn't miss fastballs.
I mean,
Which
if
again,
you-
like we said, that the guys who have success at a young age, what do? They hit fastballs and they take advantage of hitters' counts. You see Ronald Acuna do it and compete for MVPs and produce like that. Well, it's because he's 2-0, you throw a fastball, he hits a mile.
exactly.
Juan Soto doesn't do that. He's getting there. He doesn't do that yet. Think about that. This dude's
I
doing
know.
what he's doing, and he doesn't do that yet. Like,
That's crazy. To think
as a
about.
pitcher, I'd be terrified.
Yeah.
I'd do anything to go to the Nats. Like, just
Now-
Trevor Bauer, Nats this year. I don't
No,
want to face Soto.
come to New York, baby. But yeah, I mean, you can. Now we were watching when we were looking for clips here. We were watching some of his at bats from 2019 against Jacob deGrom, and there were some at bats where deGrom made him look silly. But granted, this is Jacob deGrom. We're talking about the best pitcher in baseball, so it's going to happen.
Mhm.
But it also happens when Soto takes him deep, which he has on
Yes.
multiple occasions. And when you see an elite hitter go up against an elite pitcher, I always love those matchups.
Mhm.
Like once in a while, I'll go on YouTube and look up the old Clayton Kershaw versus Mike Trout matchups, because you have Clayton Kershaw, who is probably the best pitcher of his generation, against the best hitter of his generation in Mike Trout. So when you watch that matchup, now for a long time, Kershaw got the better of him. Trout didn't particularly hit well off Kershaw for probably the first 4 or 5 years of his career. And as he grew and got better and became smarter at the plate, he started to take advantage of it.
Mhm.
And you see now granted, Kershaw's not the same pitcher he was 4 or 5 years ago, but you see now Trout's starting to hit better off of him. Now, when I got to see Trout and the Angels play against the Mets, from what I recall, I do not believe deGrom pitched in that series. So you didn't get to see Trout versus deGrom, which we will see eventually, I'm sure. But that's a matchup I would really be interested in seeing, because you have Jacob deGrom, who, you could say, and I probably agree with you that Garrett Cole has probably the best fastball in baseball. But just watching Jacob deGrom, I guess for 12 starts this year, and watching him his rookie year, deGrom in his rookie year's fastball velocity was about 93.5, 93.6. He was consistently hitting 100, 101. I think he even hit 102 at one point this year. And that's something that is totally different. Like when he came up to the big leagues, he was I'm going to pound you down at the knees and beat you with my curveball, with my slider. Now he's like, all right, I'm going to blow you away with a fastball up and away. And that's a whole nother video.
Yeah, we'll get our good friend Dan Galati on here to talk about the differences between Jacob deGrom now and Jacob deGrom then.
Oh, yeah.
And what he's doing differently that's probably gotten him to that. Because I don't think he's gotten much stronger. Sure,
Not
he does
really.
have more arm strength. Yeah. I'm sure he's just more efficiently moving, and I'm sure there's something that our eyes don't see that somebody like him would pick up within 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Just being like, oh yeah, look at his hip, look at his load, look at his brakes, whatever it is, arm action. There's tons of things, but yeah, I mean, if you're Juan Soto and you go 1 for 4 with a homer off of Jacob deGrom,
I'm happy with it.
Time.
Mhm.
As a hitter, you have to be happy.
100%.
And if you hit good pitching, that's how you really become an elite hitter in the MLB. And I know it's a cliche because good hitters hit anybody and good pitchers get everybody out. But there are some guys that struggle with good pitching for certain reasons because of that. But Juan Soto's the type of guy. I mean, we just watched it. You look at what's the laundry list in the playoffs last year? Garrett Cole twice, Justin Verlander, Hinge and Ryu, lefty on lefty, and Clayton Kershaw, lefty and lefty. Those are guys he took deep in the playoffs last year.
I mean, the only one of those guys that
didn't finish top three in the
top three
was Kershaw.
Was Kershaw, yeah. and 4 years ago, you would think that we're crazy for saying that, but it's true.
That. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Kershaw had a bad year, but
no,
still.
Just to be able to do those things at such a young age, the ceiling really is like one of the best hitters of all time. Like, it's, and mechanically speaking, as long as he stays focused on what he wants and stays healthy, that's amazing. I mean, look at Albert Pujols. Like when he was signing that contract with the Angels, there were some people that hinted that he was kind of trending downward, and I'm sure he was. But we were talking about the best right-handed hitter ever, trending towards, and look at what he is now. So there's always injuries that factor into it. Not everybody has steroids that lengthen your career by
that's true
4 or 5. Really, I mean, for some people, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and it'll be interesting to see what he looks like if he's the same hitter in 6 years, mechanically speaking. And if he can do what he does mechanically so well, and then add an approach that's going to come with time and come with maturity. And, guys just aren't going to pitch to him anymore. I mean, if the Nationals don't get thumped in their lineup next year, he's never going to get pitches to see except in blowouts. And so again, I'm sure Mike Rizzo knows that they need somebody. Protection's overrated, but somebody at least around him in front, after probably both, ideally, to make teams not just be like, you know what, Juan Soto on first base really doesn't hurt my feelings because he's that good.
Yeah. That's kind of the way teams pitch Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
I mean, the man was walked in a 2-run game intentionally with the bases loaded.
I wonder analytically, how good do you have to be for your computer to tell you you need to walk this guy, he's that good? Just think about it. It has to be a red flag because the Astros, Juan Soto. So again, Astros analytics. Juan Soto was the first person they intentionally walked last year because they just didn't believe in giving free bases, because on base, if you go 1 for 1 on base to slugging, on a 500 on base is more valuable than a 500 slugging, hypothetically speaking. They don't give away free bases. In the most important games of the year, they thought it was time to give away a free base and intentionally walk Juan Soto.
Well, that's probably why the Astros were so good. And cheating scandal aside, their pitching you can't cheat with that. So the fact that their analytics department with their pitching staff was able to be that good and just really changing Garrett Cole pretty much back into the pitcher he was when he first came up with the Pirates was something to be said. Now, granted, Cole's probably better than he was in those first years with the Pirates, obviously.
Well, that's another breakdown for another day. We could go on for. There's a lot of stuff that they changed. The Pirates did more damage to Cole than they did benefit, and the Astros just saw a flaw in real baseball. Even you listen to JV talk before he come. He tried to be a 2-seam guy before he came to the Astros, and they were like, dude, why do you throw that? He's like, well, I want to get that down in the zone. I want to get ground balls. Well, if you throw your 4-seamer, you're going to get swings and misses. So many swings and misses, they can't get a hit. Ground balls, believe me, they're a phenomenal second option for as a pitcher. If I'm not getting swings and misses, at least give me ground balls, because at least they're not homers.
Yeah.
So, but they were it was kind of they showed JV the numbers and were like, hey, listen, you do this well, and we see guys that do this well need to pitch here. You don't want to be down there. And, for lots of reasons. And then JV pretty much made the change immediately with them. If you go look at his baseball, one of the websites is go month by month. His 2-seam percentage goes from 15-20% to 0 July or August to September. When
makes sense.
Traded. They were like, dude, scratch that. 4 summers up. That's it. And he turned his career around. I mean, he went from a fringe Hall of Famer to a bona fide like Hall of Famer, guaranteed.
I mean, you can make the argument. I personally think he was probably a Hall of Famer,
Probably.
regardless.
Probably with the MVP
but,
and everything.
yeah.
But like you're talking about, like it's like an Albert Pujols situation. Like he kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Like, oh, he was so good for so long, but like after like 31, he sucked. But like at least with JV, dude, he's still winning Cy Youngs. I mean,
I know
he shouldn't have won last year, but he's still winning Cy Youngs.
Yeah, I mean, he still would have finished second.
Yeah, exactly. The top 3 finishes.
And it's a shame that he's going to have Tommy John and he's going to miss next year and going to be coming back as a 39-year-old or 40-year-old, and you literally have no idea what to expect from him. So, I mean, we're in a dynasty baseball league, and the guy who has him is trying to trade him for what his value would be now. So we're all thinking, we don't want to make that move because we don't know what we're going to get. Now, it's Justin Verlander. I get it. But he might not be able to come back and be the same pitcher coming off Tommy John surgery.
No.
It's different if he was like 29, 30, 31. Like, that's different. Like, if he's Steven Strasburg's age right now, I'm not as concerned. But in terms of him being that old, now, again, I'm not necessarily saying 39 is old. In baseball terms, it is. But you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
He's not immortal. So, you don't know.
And pitchers' aging curves recently have been good to people. I mean, really, you're starting to see recently, and it's a trend nobody talks about, as we talk about baseball's getting younger, but pitchers are getting older.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at Max Scherzer. His best years were after he signed with the Nationals.
Yeah.
That was 30 through 36. We're not talking about like hitters. We're talking about, hitters or baseball players' primes are 23 to 27, blah, 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 blah. Well, we're not talking about the fact that pitchers take a while to figure it out. We're not talking about the fact that you look at the top pitchers in the game that all around 30. Like, we're not there. There's obviously the guys, the Giolito's, the Buellers, the young guys. Like, yes, like they are great, but like people aren't talking about the DeGroms and Garrett Cole's age. Like, we're talking about age specifically. Like, so there's that side of the JV argument. Like, well, but there's also the fact that you're like 39. Like, you're gonna be 40 soon. Like, the last pitcher we saw to pitch competitively at 40 was like Mike Mussina. If you want to go like Hall of Fame caliber, I'm not gonna say Bartolo Colon. Yeah,
you can't. I mean, Bartolo Colon was fun to watch.
He was different,
but he wasn't
a lot different than what Justin Verlander is going to try and come back and do.
Exactly, because Justin Verlander, he's going to try to come back, still throw 95, 96, and get outs, as opposed to a guy like Bartolo Colon, who was throwing 88 with ridiculous movement and getting outs that way.
And could throw
different types of pitchers.
Soda can.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he could throw wherever he wanted.
You know what? It actually would probably be fun to do a Bartolo Colon breakdown too. But like we said, that's one for another day. So
90% 2 seams.
Yeah, I mean there was a stretch.
Is it going to cut? Is it going to sink? Is it going to be in? Is it going to be out? I don't know. It's going to be 88.
There was a stretch when he was on the. I think he was on the A's. I don't remember what year it was, but he threw. I think it was 40 straight fastballs in like 4 innings.
And he probably threw 38 of them for strikes.
Yeah.
And the 2 that he didn't were probably 0-2, like chase me or front hippers.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we go on another rant, that'll wrap up this segment. I hope you all enjoyed the breakdown. I'm hoping to do more of these in the future. A lot of them will probably be virtual. This just worked out because Trevor was able to come up for the day. So we were able to do one in person. So I would imagine that most of these will probably be over Zoom, as I do with most of our teamed up segments. But Trevor, it was definitely fun, and I definitely look forward to doing some more of these in the future.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. Probably talked a little bit more than probably had to, but I hope everybody learned something.
Yeah, I mean, we said this in the first podcast that we ever did. When me and him start talking about baseball, it could go on for hours. You could literally sit us down in a room with no technology, and we would probably be able to talk. I would think we'd probably be able to get at least 4 or 5 hours out of that.
Yeah, if we hit the record button, I mean, there'd probably be some stupid stuff and some arguing, but yeah,
we do.
It could go
It
for
happens.
a while.
It happens. And you know what? I think doing some breakdowns of some guys that we have differing opinions on might be
More
good.
entertaining.
Yeah. But once we get to the pitcher side, as we were mentioning with Trevor's co-host on the Backside Ground Balls podcast, Dan Galati, is big into pitching, and we'll bring him on for some of those. So if you haven't checked out Trevor's podcast, Backside Ground Balls, it is available on Apple's podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as our podcast, Murphy's Law. Same thing, wherever you get your podcast, check it out. This will be YouTube exclusive. So if you were sent over here from the podcast channel or from any of my other channels, my Twitter or Facebook or whatever the case may be, feel free to send me a message on Twitter, B_Murphy_MU. I'm more than happy to talk sports with you, baseball, football, golf, just as what we always cover here on the podcast. So we will wrap it up there, and we'll talk to you again soon.